Yeah.
This flight only gets here at 2:45. It leaves there at 12 o'clock. Thank God I asked her for her ticket. So
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Very
Can
nice.
you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, that's good. Hi. Nice to see you.
Pleasure, sir. Pleasure. Pleasure all mine.
Can't hear you, Naveen.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, Gurmeet. Hello. हाँ शैलेश भाई हाँ भाई साथी बोलिए
Okay.
गुरमीत जी आप म्यूटेड हैं. गुरमीत जी you are muted.
जी नमस्कार.
नमस्कार सर.
Hello.
Yes. नमस्कार सर.
Naviji, I think just more another 2 or 3 minutes we can wait, and then we have most of our members have already joined, so we can start. Our CG is also our ambassador Mr. Jaiswal has also joined.
Yes, sir. Mr. CG sir has to.
I would request everyone to stay on mute first, unless they have been invited to speak on.
So there is a request from consulate that for some meeting, Mr. CG sir has to leave early. So let's get started as soon as we can.
Sure. So let me formally start today's interaction. Mr. AJ, can you just mute? Request everyone to please stay on mute, please. Yeah, let me start with a very warm welcome to our Consul General of India in New York, Ambassador Ranveer Jaiswal, Mr. V. Sagar, Chairman-elect ESC India, Mr. Naveen Pathak, CEO of Entry India and Entry USA, our partner for today's event. Let me take this opportunity to welcome our CG for kindly sparing time and gracing the event today. Also, thanks to Shri Naveen Pathak, CEO of Entry India, for his support in conceptualizing the idea of organizing today's initiative. I'm just so happy. My special thanks to our members and industry fraternity for joining us this evening in a big numbers. We have over 135 registrations, and I can see a lot of members. So that shows how keen our industry members are to promote our trade between the two countries. As I say, I'm sure today's initiative will assist in deepening the business relations between the two countries as the key to enter US market, and other tips will be shared in today's session. For our electronics hardware member, US again offers a huge opportunity with China Plus One plans, and today's speaker will also touch on the warehousing opportunities in the United States for the Indian electronics hardware manufacturers. So friends, I need to hardly mention that a major chunk of Indian software and services goes to the United States, but still there is a huge potential to explore business in the United States, especially for Indian MSMEs. We are growing fast in electronics hardware exports also. And today's initiative will help you to become wiser, as there are experts in the business session who will share with wisdom for you to create an upswinging graph of your business in the United States. Every lock has a key to open it, and by organizing today's event, we are trying to give you many keys who will guide you how to enter this important market, the United States. But along with this, I would like to recommend all our industry fraternity that stay hungry and ambitious, never stand still, evolve with the times, nurture long-term business relationships, inspire those around you, trust your gut instinct, not just your spreadsheet. And the rest will come from the panelists in the business sessions and the keynote from our Consul General of India, Ambassador Jaiswalji. Shri Jaiswalji, the Council is initiating several efforts to assist Indian electronics and IT fraternity in their efforts to diversify globally and especially in the United States. As I got the opportunity along with the chairman to personally call some of the excellent work that the council is doing, especially the business incubation programs in the United States, for which we just completed 1 year, and we are in the process of initiating the second phase of the program, under which the council through the MITI provides almost 90% of the funding for expanding our medium and small businesses to the United States of America through a soft landing options. And we also provide them a marketing resource, which is shared by 5 non-competing companies, and office space and a marketing executive on a part-time basis. So these services provides the initial hand-holding for our MSME members for 1 year, so that they can eventually graduate to a level of opening up their own office in the United States. And that's how the today's session will again help our members to look at this perspective, how they can expand to this important market. Not making much time, I think our ambassador has to leave early, and he's already, a couple of engagements, and we are so grateful for sparing time for us. With these words, once again, on this occasion, I extend my best wishes to all of you present here, and look forward to the galaxy of speakers who are waiting to highlight their insights in today's session. And thank you all the panelists of today's event, and special thanks to Jaiswalji. Thank you very much. With these words, I extend a very warm welcome and invite to our chairman-elect, Mr. Veer Sagar, to quickly speak a few words about India-US opportunity in the IT services before I invite our ambassador or Mr. Pathak to speak on. Mr. Veer Sagar, over to you.
Thank you, Gurmeet. Good morning to Ambassador, Consular General Randir Jaiswalji. Good morning to also Naveen Patnaik. I think you are in the US as well, Naveen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And the 135 members who are on the panel right now listening to us. America has always been a very important market. I have been in this export business of software and IT for over now 40 years. And it's always been America. When we were trying to export technology, we said we must export to America because that's where it is recognized. If we can export to America, then we have done well. So America has always been a very important market for all of us. The issue that we face is getting there, getting customers, acquisition. Because now, previously it's only the big boys that were going to the US. Now even the middle MSMEs want to go. Similarly, for the big boys in the US who are looking at outsourcing software. Now right now it's the MSMEs, they also who want to outsource to India. And one of the challenges today is to get them to meet and create trust. Because the smaller companies there are worried that if we deal with a smaller company in India, how do we know that they are good, they will not cheat, and they will not run away with our IPR. Similarly, when we are doing work job, how do we know that they will pay? There's a lot of these issues. And one of the issues we trying to solve, ESC is trying to solve this through these regular meetings like this, interaction. And I am hoping that when we have more people-to-people contact, when we have more offices there, this will get reduced. Because one of the issues that has been hurting us very badly is the visa issue. People who want to go and visit on a B1 to meet customers. Now, I believe somebody wanted to get a US visa. The date given is December 24. So I'm hoping that CGA will do something about this. But US is an important market, and all of us in India are focused on looking at US because US recognizes quality, recognizes new technology, and also are good paymasters. So with this word, I do not want to take time. I'd like to hear the panelists. So I'd like to hand back to Gurmeet. Thank you very much, Gurmeet, for getting me here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Very quick and very crisp introduction, and with the experience, kind of experience you have, particularly in the IT services, I think there is a lot of learn for our MSMEs and startups which are present today. And thank you so much once again. With this, I invite Mr. Naveen Pathak before I open the floor for our ambassador, Ranjit Jaiswalji. Naveenji, just share a very quick brief about you and NT-USA and how you are helping the companies between India and the United States. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gurmeet. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I want to convey my regards and namaskar, Sri Ranjit Jaiswalji, Chairman-elect Mr. Veer Sagarji, dear speakers from today's event, and all the participants joining in from India. A very good evening to you. First of all, welcome to this webinar, Global Expansion, How to Expand Your Business to the US. I don't want to take much of your time. A small background. I'm an electrical engineer, migrated to US in 1994, roughly 29 years back. I worked in information security arena with defense, US Defense, on projects with FAA and DISA, Defense Information Systems Agency, and started my own company in 2006, working with American companies expanding business to the to India. And in last few years, of course, the growth from the India side, or the interest from the India side to enter the US market, has been phenomenal. It's great. I mean, that's the first step. Of course, other than saying, China plus strategy, India stands a very, very good chance. And I tell you how much of a support you get from the consulates across the US. That's also great, very visible here. So technically, the goal at today's event is to act like a lighthouse, to make sure that you are ready, at least to getting, what it takes to get started doing business in the US. One thing is for sure, that you cannot learn to drive in a parked car. So what this means is that you have to jump into the swimming pool to know what it takes to swim. Whatever you will learn today, I promise you, there are a lot of insights you will get. I promise you, not only you will understand what it takes, but your future goal, it will help you in plan out a bigger vision for yourself. You have to have a big goal. You have to have a big vision. It's not a dating game. In dating game, you lose money because you're going out, with the other partners so much, but it's a marriage game. So look, long-term relationship with the US companies, with the US clients, with the US partners, whoever they are. And this will help you in setting up your goals, in creating a larger success in whatever ways it is for you. That said, I am, handing the mic back to Gurmeet.
Thanks, Naveenji, for very quick introduction. With this, I think, let me again extend our very warm welcome to Ambassador Ranjit Jaiswalji. Again, thank you so much, sir, for sparing time to be with us. You was always supportive to the Indian IT industry, and that's how, we are growing in that important market. Look forward to hearing from you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good evening and good morning to all our participants, both here in the United States and India, and perhaps across the world. From the Indian Consulate, I warmly welcome all of you to this very important, meaningful webinar, and I thank ESC and Entry India for making this happen. We are truly delighted to be a partner in this endeavor. I would like to echo the words spoken by Mr. Veer Sagar, Chairman-elect, the moderator for this webinar, Mr. Gurmeet, and our dear friend and partner, Mr. Naveen Pathak of Entry India. All of you have been very strong supporter of India-US partnership, and we look forward to working with you to take this engagement to greater heights. India-US trade relationship, both on the merchandise side and on the services side, are doing exceedingly well. They are almost touching $200 billion. And I can only say that the sky is limit. With the kind of political engagement, trust and partnership that we have built, there is immense amount of work to be done by all of you, all our members of ESC, and many more friends who are part of this ecosystem. We had a very successful, transformative, historic visit of a Prime Minister. That itself has opened up several new opportunities. And mind you, not just for the big IT players, but for the small and medium players as well. We have had several agreements on the technology side, innovation, on space, on the new platform that we have established between India and the United States, Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies. All these things put together, they're expanding the web of our interaction. A lot of new things are happening in the United States in terms of digital infrastructure, creating a digital ecosystem. The semiconductor ecosystem is expanding. Life in general on digital platforms are expanding. And that means that new opportunities for Indian players, Indian companies, Indian partners, both by way of hardware support, software support, and services support. So I am very optimistic that with all the good tidings that we are seeing right now in India-US space, there is a lot for us on our plate, and we have to really step up our action and efforts. Having said that, let me also tell you that as part of the Prime Minister's historic visit to the United States, we had signed an agreement to enhance startup collaboration between Rhode Island Hub and Invest India. This partnership is going to open new opportunities for our IT players, for our innovators, and for our startup players. And we look forward to those from ESC who would like to join us in this journey. And in any manner you think that we can be of help, please do reach out to us. I particularly take the point that we are at a time in our economic history that we need to bring in more and more small and medium players, small and medium companies who can join us in this IT and digital partnership with the United States. Because that is how we are going to create new value as our economy expands from $3.5 trillion to $35 trillion in not so distant future, and to become the third largest economy in absolute terms in a couple of years' time from now. We also look forward, this digital medium enables us to converse easily, but we would really like to see an ESC delegation come to United States, and we are ready to host you, and we see how best we can forge new links and new partnership. One particular issue that was raised about visa, I have an understanding that things have improved, things are continuously being improved. That is the commitment that has been given by the American side. We have new ambassador of the United States in India, Ambassador Eric Garcetti. He also has been very supportive of this particular matter. Right now, because we have a large number of Indian students who come to the United States, so therefore that is a priority for the US Embassy and consulates in India, but they're also giving equal priority and attention to our business travelers. So my own sense is that as we move into 2023, this backlog that has built up, slowly it will get eased up. All this is because of the pandemic that everybody was impacted by, but we are hopeful and we will continue to push on that account. With that, I turn it over to the moderator, and I look forward to the conversation and anything that we can do, any feedback for us. We really take all our economic engagement very seriously, because that is a priority for us. And whenever there's an economic engagement, I and our team here gets really charged up. We want to do more. We want to expand our economic in India-US economic partnership. Today we have this webinar. We also have 25-member delegation from India right now participating in Tex World Fair. So every day, every second day, we have a delegation from India, or we have a strong economic engagement, collaboration, conversation, webinar, B2B, B2B engagements, and all that keeps us very excited, and the India-US economic space very dynamic. Thank you very much. The consulate looks forward to supporting all of you. Thank you.
Thanks indeed, sir. That was quite insightful, and we always have your support. And thanks again for reassuring your support in all our activities to follow on for the benefit of our IT and ITS member exporters in this important market. And certainly we'll be staying in touch with you for your further guidance and the activities and the opportunities to be tapped for our member companies. And we will keep you also updated on the business incubation programs that the ESE plans to run. Maybe another 2 months. We already have 90 plus nominations from Indian MSMEs who want to be part of this wonderful initiative, and we as ESE seek your support and your guidance to make execute these programs in a very effective and fruitful members. Thanks again, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today in spite of your busy schedule, and we really appreciate that. With these, we close ceremony. Thanks for everyone joining, and then I hand over the stage floor to Mr. Naveen Pathak to please introduce the speakers and carry on forward from now onwards. Naveen ji, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ranjit sir, for a wonderful speech on the relationship between US and India as it is growing. One part I just want to add for everyone here, and this will be a cherry on the top. The trust among the for the American companies on India is very high, and one example can set everything apart is that I can call India the password capital of the world. Imagine how much of work from US goes to India, and all those passwords are with Indians. And this was never the case with China. The blueprints of what a company is looking at is with Indians. So that said, this time with Prime Minister Modi's visit, the more concrete actions are happening, as CG sir mentioned, and there will be many more. Prime Minister Modi got the visibility, or India got the visibility through our Prime Minister. Every major news channel covered it. So this is a very right time. If you connect with your prospect vendors, partners, whoever they are, suppliers, you can create those linkages on a very fast mode. Now, that's all, from something I wanted to add. Now, getting started, I'm going to do the screen share and introducing our panelists as we go. Just give me 1 second, everyone. Okay, first. 1 second, guys. Yes. Okay, before, step by step, we'll go, we'll move along. Give 1 second. Okay, so, before I do the screen share, let me, because then the focus goes onto the screen, let me introduce, we have 3 speakers today. Mr. Ajay Kumar is a CPA. I'll just talk a little bit about him. And then we have Geeta Rajavarupu, who is a US immigration expert today, and Mr. Sanjay Prasad, who is a distribution expert. So going a little bit over all the profiles together, and so that we can start the session one after another without any delay. So Mr. Ajay Kumar, as much as I can say, it will be very less for him. with 20 years of experience. His specialties include providing accounting, auditing for retail establishments, importers and distributors, shipping and logistics, media, restaurant, bars. I mean, you name any sector, and he has touched. By the way, he is also a bachelor's of computer engineering from DIT Delhi. He is MBA in finance and international business management from Stern School of Business. He is a member of AICPA, that is American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and New Jersey Certified Public Accountants. Up to 2,000 companies he has formed. Registrations have been done in 50 states. Clients from over 20 countries. I tell you, you are in right hands. Today is the best time for anyone, for any questions, to understand what it takes to run a company in the US. You will get all your queries resolved today itself. So be ready with your questions. That is about Mr. Ajay. Now, Geeta Rajavarupu, you know, if I have to say only one sentence, that sentence will be: Geeta has worked over 1,000 immigrant and non-immigrant visa applications. That is the beauty of it. Geeta is a certified immigration paralegal and HR specialist. She has spent over 14 years working in various multinational corporate IT companies, both in India and the US. She is a seasoned paralegal working with various experienced immigration attorneys across the US, representing large companies and individuals before US CIS, Department of Labor, State Employment Agency, State Department of US embassies, and the consulates of US across the world. She helps new startups in US and HR and payroll services also. So she is highly recognized for her meticulous and quality work, and very known in the industry. Now, moving to the next one, Mr. Sanjay Prasad is, he's been in this business for 30 years of experience in domestic and international distribution, primarily IT products, including computer components, ICs, and consumer electronic products. He holds a master's degree in industrial engineering from Kansas State University here in the US and Adelphi University. Sanjay received an Export Achievement Award from the Department of Commerce in 2004. And he has been recently appointed to a four-year term as to the New Jersey District Export Council member by the Secretary of Commerce. Sanjay is considered an expert in the field of distribution and has been invited to share his views on many discussion panels, including like today. And in the last one, he was with Rampau College, where he presented on the distribution side of doing business in the US. Now, with that out of the picture, now my main thing is to get started with screen share and bring our speakers one by one to start talking about their areas of expertise. And the first session will be, my screen is visible, everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so once we'll start in with Ajayji. One thing I want to add, there is a background noise.
Please mute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, all right, okay. So getting started, Ajayji, the floor is yours. So I'm going to run the presentation for you, and just you can guide me through as we move along.
Absolutely. Thank you, Naveen. My regards to Mr. Jaiswal, Gurmeet sir, Veer Sagar sir. I'm happy to be part of this this presentation. I have done these presentations probably over 100 times. I have been an accountant for almost 25 years. As Mr. Pathak said, I have registered over 2,000 companies in similar situation. You will see some background noise for the first few minutes. We have the loan mover outside the office cleaning up the loans, but it should go away in few minutes. I like to start these meetings by saying, as much as we try, we have been given a fixed amount of time. There's a fixed presentation. So there are chances that we may not answer your question. You are spending your time in the evening over there on a weekday evening. You had a long day. So unless your question is answered, this whole meeting is not worth it for you. So please make sure before the end of the meeting or any time during the meeting, you type your question in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer these questions for you. There's no silly question. Any question is a good question. And again, we'll try our best. We'll try to cover the questions that have been asked in prior meetings. But if there is anything that you want to ask, please feel free to write in the chat box, and we'll try our best to address it. So the way you want to see a CPA in a US is more of a CA, chartered accountant in India. It's a similar job, except that we have the full cycle, MBA in finance from New York University, a computer degree, some wealth planning licenses. We have 53 accountants right now, 12 CPAs, 3 locations. So it's one of the good size company. And again, we have been doing it for 25 years, over 2,000 companies in similar situation. So let's start by opening the company first. The first step is to open a legal, formal structure in this country, in US. When you think about expansion, when you think about L1 visa, when you think about approaching the customers in America, the very first step is to open the company. Only then you are allowed to open the bank account. You have to have a US bank account. As much as US companies trust Indian companies, they want to see a legal structure in US. They want to be paying in US, only because if you do not withhold your side of the bargain from US to US, they can ask for their money back. So there will be bigger trust, greater trust if you have a US bank account, as opposed to, can you transfer the money to me for my services in India? In order for you to have a US bank account, you will need a US company. And we'll go through this whole process to tell you what type of companies are allowed, what kind of structure is best suited. So the US government in general allows 5 types of business structure, right from proprietorship. You can have the partnership, LLC, S Corp, and C Corp, 5 types of structure. All these structures are good for somebody, meant for somebody. So there's no good or bad structure. It all depends on the situation that we are trying to address, as what kind of structure will best suit in this structure. Let's say, for example, foreign ownership. When you're trying to start the business from a foreign country, from India, in this example, out of 5 structure, you're limited to only 2 structure, LLC and C corporation. Proprietorship, partnership, and S corp is not allowed as any structure when you're thinking about foreign ownership. Now, the question we are typically asked in this case, do I have to come to US to start the business? No, you do not have to come to US to start the business. Do I have to have a US partner to start the business? You do not have to have a US partner. Can my US company be owned by my Indian company? Yes. There is no such limitation that the US company has to be owned by an individual. You can be the director, the signing authority on the company, and the company's ownership, the shareholding can still be with your Indian company if you choose to, especially if you're thinking about the L1 visa. And Geeta will cover that subject in detail. So when we are thinking about starting the business in US, we are given 2 types of structure, LLC and C Corp. LLC is a limited liability company, cheaper to manage, no payroll needed, easier structure. C Corp, on the other hand, is a corporation, separate entity. If you have work, if you have transactions in the C Corp, payroll becomes mandatory in the C Corp. But in many cases, and you will see that I'm trying to highlight benefits of the LLC and disadvantage of the C Corp, and then I'll flip it around why C Corp makes better sense for all service related businesses. And then we'll try to address how do you take the profit or the money from the US to India without paying double taxes or without incurring additional taxes. But let's focus on the LLC versus C Corp first. So limited liability company have the members versus C Corp. C Corp is a separate entity in itself. So the tax liability that you will have in LLC is very, very similar to C Corp. LLC, if you have the domestic partners, is a flow-through entity. If you have a foreign partner, then you pay the taxes at the entity level. Again, flexible structure, typically used for small businesses. We use LLC structure where we don't expect to see the profit. LLC pays 15.3% additional self-employment taxes on the net profit. So you wonder out loud, what kind of company wouldn't expect any profit? Why would I open a company if I'm not expecting any profit? Well, real estate companies, let's say if you want to invest money into a real estate type of business or buy rental property in US, then typically your mortgage interest, your property tax, your depreciation are going to offset any net rental income that you're getting. So I'm not sure how much you know about the property tax, but property tax is an extreme, a big expense. It's not like in India that you pay a small amount of money. And I'm just trying to draw an example. Say for my home that I live in, it's a small home, but I pay about $20,000 per year in property tax. So it's a large expense when we talk about the rental property. So typically the rental properties on books do not expect any profit. So for rental properties type of structure, we prefer LLC. For C Corp, the right type of structure is the service company, or where you expect an L1 kind of situation, or where you expect funding from the US sources. It could be the crowdfunding, it could be the angel investment, it could be equity investment, meaning selling the stocks or selling the shares. In those cases, we prefer C Corp type of structure. C Corp, and vaguely put at a high level, C Corp is a type of structure where you can, at least in theory, do whatever you want to do and walk away from the liability. Meaning the liability of the C Corp typically do not flow through to the shareholder unless it can be proved that the shareholders maliciously, intentionally did something wrong. So the liability of the C Corp remains with the C Corp, not to the shareholder. So in a business where we expect larger lawsuits, larger liabilities, we prefer C Corp. And that's the reason when somebody is investing money, buying stocks, angel investment, crowdfunding, or stock selling, in those cases, the investor will prefer C Corp type of structure, because whatever you do, they don't want to be responsible for the act of the business. It's a little bit of a rigid structure. You have to follow certain guidelines. Just because the C Corp allows the shareholders to walk away from the liability, in theory, there are certain compliances, additional compliances that you have to go through when you are talking about the C Corp as opposed to LLC. The tax rate is the main question. How much are the taxes that we have to pay for a C Corp? So the tax in US, there are two layers of taxes. The federal tax, consider it more of a central government tax, and a state tax. There is no local tax in here. So consider where you have the India tax and let's say Rajasthan tax. The India tax, the central government tax, we refer it as a federal tax. The state tax depends on which state you have the business in. US has 50 states, and each state has their own tax structure. The federal tax rate, the central government tax rate, again, is fixed 21% tax rate. The state tax rate varies from 5% to 9%, depending on the state to state. So in theory, your tax varies. For a C corporation, your tax varies from 26% to 30%, give or take, depending on which state you have the business. And we'll discuss which state makes sense, why this state versus that. We'll discuss that as a separate topic, but just to understand the taxation part of it. So the taxes are 26% to 36% of the net profit. Now, take an example here, a quick example before we move to the next subject. Let's say if you have $100 revenue coming in the US, as revenue. Now, all the services are done in India, and US is your sales office or just the front office. You do not have any payroll in US yet. You do not have any services that are being provided through the US system. Then do you have to pay tax on this $100? No. Out of $100, you decide based on the transfer pricing study that we can help you with how much money you can transfer to India office as cost of doing business. In this example, let's say search engine optimization company. There are a lot of IT companies, the IT companies where the services are being provided from India and the clients are in US. You can transfer, let's say in this example, $90 to India for the services that the Indian company provided. On the remaining $10, you pay $2.10 or roughly $2 to the federal government, the central government, and another 6 to 9 cents to the state government. So your total tax liability is $3 in this example, if your net profit is $10. So on $100 of revenue, you have brought your tax liability down. If you have any question, please put it on the chat box. I'll be happy to look at all your questions.
A quick question may you please add a little or elaborate on when you use the term pass through for LLC for the audience? What pass through means for an LLC?
Absolutely. So pass through is a concept where the company does not pay any taxes. The owners of the company pays taxes. So let's say there are two owners in the LLC. So the 21% or the 9% that we are talking about, the federal tax and the state tax, the company does not pay taxes. The $100 of the profit gets added to the personal taxes of the members, of the owners in this example, and the owners pay taxes on that money, not the company. But flow through taxation will only work for the US partner when you have the. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. Otherwise, just mute the microphone. So flow through structure only works with the US partners, or if you get the ITI, an individual tax identification number, and you decide to file taxes and report all your global income in US, which is not advisable, flow through concept wouldn't work for the foreign owners, foreign companies or foreign shareholder. So pass through concept is for the domestic partners only. Any other question before we move on?
Yes, some questions are there. So Gaurav is asking, which state is best to set up a company?
I have that. Okay, since you are talking about it, I had that on a separate slide. The state, each state has their own tax structure. US has 50 states. If there was a state that is clearly better than everybody else, all the other 49 states will be out of business. Meaning the state runs their affair based on the taxes that they collect. So each state has a way of collecting taxes, either by calling it sales tax, excise tax, estate tax, VAT tax. So the name could be different depending on state to state, but each state has a different way of collecting taxes. You will hear Texas, Florida, Minnesota. There are several states, 5 states in this out of 50 states. These states do not have personal taxes. So you will hear a lot of stories. Are these states better? Well, they have higher business taxes to recoup for the personal taxes. So it's just one of those gimmick, 20% off, but I have increased my prices by 50%. Then you will hear there are some states like Delaware that will say no liability, where under the Chapter 7, the judge does not make the decision, the jury makes the decision. But that's in Delaware, the tax liability is extremely high. Unless you are going for crowdfunding or unless you are thinking about listing your company to Security Exchange Commission, meaning going public, Delaware wouldn't make sense. Delaware makes sense only when you're playing or you're working with public money. You have a lot of investors, it's not your money. Your only concern is you can touch me. It doesn't matter how much it costs. That's when you go to Delaware because the taxes are high, but the liability protection is very high for the shareholder. So each state will have its own pros and cons. The best part, just because you started the company in, let's say, New Jersey, does not mean you cannot move the company to any state. You always have the right to close the registration in this state and have the new registration done in any state of your choice. So you can always, so a lot of time it would make sense to go in the beginning to the cheaper state. And when you grow to a certain point, then you can always choose which state makes most sense for you. Also, please remember, it depends on the nexus. Let's say, for example, if I open your company in Delaware, but the only office you have is in New Jersey, then you have to file the taxes in Delaware as well as in New Jersey. Let's say if you have somebody working in Florida, but you say my office address is New York. Now you have a nexus with Florida and New York because your home state is New York, but you have somebody working in Florida. Now you have to file taxes in New York and Florida, meaning both states. So a lot of times, especially in the beginning, it makes sense to start the business where you intend to have the nexus, where you're going to have somebody working, where you will have the payroll, where you will have the address, where you have a warehouse. See where you have the nexus, where you have the connection. In that state, you have to file the taxes anyway. So let's choose that state to start your business. So if there are follow-up questions, please put it on the, and I have a lot of these questions towards the end of the presentation as well.
Yes.
Naveenji, I suggest that let our speaker first complete the presentation so that only the persons who have any questions they can stay back and others are opt to leave out, and we can finish the presentation in time. So let it be handled at the end of the session. Thank you.
So the next step is, what does it take to start the business? What registration I need? What are the steps? What's the process? So there are 3 steps to start the business in the US. Again, the federal registration, the EIN, employer identification number is what we call it, the state registration, and the tax registration. So federal registration is the registration of your business with the central government, with the federal government. The state registration allows you to choose which state, and you can have the registration in multiple states. In many cases, you will be forced to have the registration in multiple states if you have, say, for example, people working in multiple states, offices in multiple states, or nexus in multiple states. In that case, you have the business in multiple states. The third step in this process is called the tax registration, that decides what type of business you have, what are the tax obligations. Each state will have 30 different types of taxes, right from the road taxes to the liquor taxes to the tire taxes or the sales. So there are 30 different types of taxes. Depending on your business, we tell the government this is what the business is, and this business will be working from this location. These are the owners, responsible party, and these are the applicable taxes in this case. So that's the third registration. So typically in any business registration, when you do in US, you are expecting 3 documents. First document, the federal registration, is also referred as EIN or SS4. The state registration is sort of what's your home state, and the tax registration is what taxes you are going to be filing. So these are the 3 steps. These are the 3 documents that any bank will request you to give when we think about the business startup. Moving on, Naveen, please. So these are the questions I have, but before I go to the question, I wanted to also highlight the compliance part of it. What are the typical compliance? What are the minimum compliance? And what's the cost of these compliance? A lot of times when we are a small business owner, it's not just about starting the business. How much would it cost me? And what headaches, what hassles would I have on a regular basis? So for any type of company, you will have at least 2 sort of compliance. First compliance is filing the taxes at the end of the year. We call it income tax filing. So this income tax filing that's done at the end of the year, typically on a calendar year basis. Depending on your business, you can choose it to be on a fiscal year basis, meaning, let's say, in most cases, the Indian company's fiscal year starts from April 1st till March 31st. You can have your US company on the same cycle starting from April 1st to March 31st to keep them aligned. So that's income tax filing, that's yearly filing, and that's done with the federal government and the state government. All the filings that you have typically are with both government. That's one type of compliance obligation you have every year. The second compliance is more of a license renewal. It costs you a couple of $100. At the end of the year, you're supposed to go back to the state. This is my business. These were the responsible parties. This was the address, and I'm verifying these are still the parties. They change in ownership, change in address, more of a license renewal type of filing. Some states, say for example, Delaware will call it excise filing. New York has it biennial filing. New Jersey has it annual report filing. At the end of the day, the intent behind this filing is give me $100. Tell me who are the responsible party. You are doing the same business that you started. What address do you have now? That type of filing is called with different names, annual report filing. That's the second compliance obligation that you have. So in total, your running cost depends on what business you have. If you have payroll, if you have sales tax, but from a budgeting perspective, you can assume it's $1,000 running cost. If you have a business and let's say you don't open a bank account, you have no business, you still want to understand that you have some minimum compliance obligations. And at a high level, it could be less than 1,000, but at a high level, the maximum cost that you're thinking is $1,000. That's the maximum cost you are looking at from a compliance obligation perspective. Now, I'm going to move on to these questions. Please, if there is any question or follow-up question, feel free to write in the chat box and I'll try my best to answer these questions. So how do I make a selection in the state in which I shall? We touched upon it. Please go with the nexus theory as opposed to which state has the lowest taxes. Depending on where you have the nexus, that's how you want to select the state. And in many cases, you may have to have multiple states, not the single state. Is there any minimum investment required to open a company? No, there is no minimum investment as such that you have to have. Depending on your business, you can start the business with $1,000 or $10 or $100,000, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But there is no formal book minimum investment that you have to open the company in US. Is Delaware state considered to be a tax haven? These are the actual questions that I have seen in the past presentation. So Delaware is not a tax haven. Delaware is definitely a liability haven. Delaware is typically selected for the public companies, the Security Exchange Commission listed companies, or the companies where you have the crowdfunding or angel investment, where you're not worrying about how much it's costing, how much is the tax liability. Delaware has higher taxes than many other states, but the liability protection is higher. Now, many online sites talk about opening LLC in the state of Wyoming. So should I consider Wyoming as again, it's the same question as the first one. Wyoming is one of those states where there are no personal taxes. There are 5 states where there is no personal taxes: Florida, Texas, Wyoming. But each state runs their affair based on the tax revenue that they collect. So there is no such state which is better than anything else. If I open a company in Delaware state but rent a space in a warehouse in New Jersey state, would I be taxed? Well, yes and no. So there is no double taxation. You have to file taxes in both states. At the end of the day, we'll ask you the $100 that you are making, how much of that $100 was made from Delaware and how much of that $100 was made from New Jersey. Depending on, let's say if you made $50 in Delaware, you pay tax on $50 in Delaware. If you made $50 in New Jersey, you pay tax on $50 in New Jersey. But practically, what's going to happen? Most of your, even though you registered the business in Delaware, all your activities are done in New Jersey. So in that case, your revenue in Delaware is zero. You still have to file the tax in Delaware and pay the minimum taxes. All states have a minimum tax liability, even if you have no activity in that state, or even if there is no profit. So there will be some additional taxes, there will be some additional filing costs because you have to file two states, pay minimum taxes in both states, but there is no double taxation as such, at least in theory. Moving on, if my company is based in Texas, but my client is in New Jersey, would I need to register my company in NJ as well? It depends. You don't create a nexus by having a client in New Jersey. Let's say, for example, a search engine optimization type of company or a website development type of company will have clients in all states. Does it mean that they have to register in all the 50 states? So just by having the client does not create a nexus. But extend the same question by saying, I have a client in New Jersey and I have somebody, a person working in New Jersey at their office. Now you have an access. Now you have payroll in New Jersey. Now you have technical and office location in New Jersey. In that case, you have to do the New Jersey registration as well. How is the sales tax computed and filed for both product and service oriented companies in the US? Now that's a loaded question. That's a tricky question. And when I talk about sales tax, please in your mind consider it as VAT, value added tax that we have in India. We don't have VAT. It's sort of similar tax that's paid by the seller, that's collected by the seller from the buyer and then paid by the seller to the state government. So sales tax differs from state to state. Sales tax can be different in the same state. Say, for example, New York State is pretty big state. It has Albany as one city. The tax in Albany is very different than the tax in New York City or tax in Queens. Even in New Jersey, tax in Newark, sales tax in Newark is different than the sales tax in, let's say, East Brunswick, where I'm sitting. In some cases, it also depends on where you're supplying and where you're supplying from. So we have to really understand your situation to answer this question appropriately. But in general, at a high level, when you are selling the products to retail, B2C, then sales tax is more like mandatory. Again, I'm trying to generalize something that has to be looked at in detail before we answer your question. But in general, B2C attracts the sales tax. B2B typically does not attract the sales tax. Products selling attracts the sales tax. Services, except few states, does not attract the sales tax. So you have to really see the situation in detail to answer this question. Moving on, in what scenario I might have to register my firm in multiple states? I think we touched upon it, but let's say if you have, typically staffing companies have people working in multiple states, people working from home in multiple states, people working at the client side, companies where they have multiple warehouse location, companies where they have office locations. There could be a lot of situations where a nexus can be created, and in that case, you will be required to have the business registered in multiple states. That doesn't mean you have to pay taxes, double taxes or triple taxes. That only means at the end of the year, we'll see out of the total profit, how much is coming from each state. We'll pay the taxes on that profit in that state. Filing is mandatory for all the states that you have the business registered in, even if you have no profit allocated to that state, and there may be a minimum tax that you have to pay to that state, even if zero profit is allocated to that state. I want to open my company that would buy US product and export them to India. No, we'll have to look at the state, but in most cases, if you are, this is more of a wholesale type of question. If you are selling the product, if you're buying the product, when you buy, you don't collect the sales tax. You pay the sales tax. So if you take an example, the sales tax obligation falls on the seller. Seller is expected to collect the sales tax from the retail buyer, and the seller is expected to pay the sales tax to the state government. In this question, The question is, if I buy the US product and export or sell them to India, there should not be any sales tax. But again, we can look at the location, we can look at what you're selling, product, service, and if there are any other sort of taxes that this will, say, for example, if you are selling gas, the gasoline, the petrol, that may be a different situation. But again, it could be a case sensitive question. Now, moving on, can I pay dividend to myself, non-US resident foreign nation from a C corporation in the US, and then how will I be taxed? You can definitely pay dividend to yourself. Whenever you pay dividend to a non-US resident, a foreign person, the US government will withhold 30% taxes. If you want this tax back, you can file your personal taxes in US to claim these taxes back. More of a TDS, tax deducted at source type of situation. You pay dividend, but before you pay dividend, pay to the government. If I open the company and later add a partner with higher majority, what changes would I have? So we have tried to change this question. So this question has multiple parts to it. So if you open a company, can you add another partner? Definitely. We can issue new shares to the other partner. We can have some paperwork created where the older owner can give up some share in favor of the new partner or new shareholder. Now, we have made this question a little bit complicated just to help you understand. If you're selling more than 50%, higher majority stake, in this case, the responsible party changing is slightly more than just selling the share. If you're selling 1%, 2%, 5% share, you take the money, sell the share, that's one side of the story. But if you're selling more than 50% share, then there is a separate filing that you have to done with the IRS, with the state, to let them know the responsible party for this company is changing. That's the intent behind this question. Naveen, we can touch upon some of the questions in the chat box before
Yes. So first question I missed earlier, Niloy, your question about taxation for B2B companies has been answered. So let's go to Mr. Rajesh Palani. Rajesh is asking, how do we list our stock in US market share?
How to list the stock in the US market?
US share market.
Absolutely. So in SEC, you have to have the approval. You have to, listing the shares in the stock market has a cost to it. You have to go through an investment banker. The cost to list the stock varies from $2 million to $10 million. The administrative cost to list the stock. So you want to have a company at least worth $100 million in US to list the stocks. It's a 3 years process. A lot of companies, when they find themselves that in next 3 to 5 years, they will be $100 million company, that's when we start working with them, if that's what the plan is, to start creating the necessary paperwork that we can use to have the stocks listed in the Security Exchange Commission, in the stock market.
All right. Okay. So, Krish Deala, I see your question that, how Entry India supports the marketing. Let's take this question offline, not here, because here we are focusing on different aspects of it, but I would love to share details. You can get in touch with, ESC officials, how to reach out to us. So that is the best route. And then we'll talk certainly and help you out, understand how do we function. Okay. So now let's go to question from Avinash. And any Indian company, if I hire a US citizen as a freelancer to work for us, what are our tax implications and obligations?
So if you hire, the word freelancer means you're hiring somebody as a contractor, not as an employee. So this person, the freelancer, in theory, is not working for the company full-time, is working for the company part-time, few hours. In that case, there are no, the compliance is not complicated. At the end of the year, you can issue a 1099, 1099, and you can pay whatever the payment obligations you have for this freelancer. If you have somebody working full-time for you, then you have to have that person on the payroll of the company. And as I mentioned in my earlier slides, C Corp typically requires a payroll if you have transactions in the US company.
Next question is by Niloy again. Can Indian tax authorities chase up to GST on US income?
I'm not sure. You have to check with somebody in India and how far the Indian government can go to chase somebody. I know the US government does not chase anybody in India. It's not worth their time. And that's why for the foreign owned company, the compliance obligations are higher, more scrutinized than a local US company.
Let me put it a different way also, Ajayji, for Niloy. You see, maybe, you know, this question may have different meanings, but to what I understand is if I make money in the US and I have IEC code, I'm registered, I think private limited or on similar account, and I have IEC code and letter of undertaking, then whatever money you take from US to India, because you technically you're invoicing, and then you don't have to pay GST on the income that is coming from US to your Indian company, right? So let's go to Kailash. Kailash is asking, so Indian citizens will form C Corp only as we are foreigners in US?
No, in the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that two types of structure, LLC and C Corp, that are allowed for the foreign people. You can have the Indian company own the LLC. You can have the foreign people own the C Corp. So two types of structures are allowed, LLC or C Corp.
Okay. Now Neelav is asking, do US states also need a permanent managing director like major European countries?
They do, but they don't have to be a local person. Meaning, do I have to have a director? Yes. You do. Does this person have to be in US? No.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's same. Okay, there was next question is an extension of the previous one. So let's go to the next participant. Sri Harsha is asking, if we made a sale through distributor, whether we meet Nexus to register for sales tax?
No. If you are wholesaling to distributor, and we have a lot of distributors as our clients. If you are wholesaling to distributors, the Indian company that's selling to the US distributor is not on the hook for sales tax. But we can actually see what you are selling, what you are distributing, to see if there's any other tax obligation you have based on the product.
Wonderful. Okay, now next question, Mandeep Singh is asking, how to overcome opening bank account for C Corp if all shareholders are Indians, or basically from India?
It's done all the time. I mean, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, we have probably opened over 2,000 companies. So opening the bank account, there are several banks, and Entry India can help. We do it all the time. There are a lot of banks that will allow you to open the bank account even when none of the shareholder, none of the proprietor is in US. You can, in many banks, do the online interview, Zoom interview, and a face-to-face interview. Some banks will ask for more documentation. Give me the passport, give me the driver's license, give me the home address proof. So it's done all the time.
Yes.
Can you name a few banks? Can you name a few banks? Because we've been facing problems for 9 months now.
Okay, Mercury is a virtual bank, sir, which you can go, and Mercury is our partner, Entry India's partner. So mercury.com/partner/Entry India, a page will open, and then you can go from there. The other bank that we work is a physical bank.
Yeah.
There are several banks: Investors Bank, Citizens Bank, Mercury Bank. So at a high level, what you want to understand, if you go to top tier, Bank of America, Citibank, Chase Bank, TD Bank, the top tier bank do not want to deal with this nonsense. You, at least in the beginning, you have to go with a second tier bank, a smaller bank. And then once your business is large enough, then you can move your business to any bank you want.
Is Mercury Bank safe?
FDIC,
It's an internet
insured.
bank. It's an
Yes,
internet
it
bank.
is. Yes. Yes, I mean, was Lehman Brothers a safe investment bank? So, it was safe, but still, what happened to it, that. So, they're FDIC insured. It means your money, business in the business account, I think up to $250,000 is safe. But with Silicon Valley Bank, what they did is exactly the same scenario that can happen with any bank.
Any bank. I mean, it was a $1 billion bank, huge bank, and it did go in default. So answering the question, if this bank is safe or not, it's kind of hard to answer.
hard to answer.
But all the banks have to carry certain insurance, have to have certain assets, have to maintain certain debt to equity ratio, debt to cash ratio. There are certain requirements to run a bank. It's not that anybody can open the bank and try to take everybody's money.
Right. Okay. So next question is by Mandeepji. How to overcome problems
Skip that. It's just typo.
Okay. All right. So now Krish is asking, what is the service charges for enabling the registration?
So depends on how you do it, how you go about it. Mr. Pathak, Manvi, they will be happy to help you go through the whole process and make it a seamless process, end-to-end process for you. In this presentation, in the interest of time, if we can just leave the presentation to the technical question.
Yes,
that'll be
please.
nice.
Yeah, no, we can address that later on. Okay. Okay. Now, what kind of visa required for CEO MD of the entity?
We have another legal expert coming after me, Geeta. She'll be happy to answer all the L1 visa immigration related question. I'm
Yes.
not qualified to answer that question.
Okay. Now Prashant is asking, Texas recommended for IT services company?
Yes and no. Again, there is no state recommended for this type of business or that type of business. Texas is one state where they don't have the personal income tax. But you have to see where your office is going to be, where you have nexus in. And that's how you want to decide which state you want to go. For us, all the 50 states are exactly the same.
Okay. Now Sri Harsha is asking whether required to maintain separate books of accounts state-wise?
No, you need to maintain the books of accounts for the total company. You can decide the state allocation based on the payroll, based on the profit, based on the expense structure, based on the asset structure, where your assets are located. You don't need to maintain separate set of books for each state.
Okay. Manav Singhal is asking, does C Corp has to have any employee in USA?
That's what we prefer, especially if you have large transaction, large profit, then you have to have the payroll in a C Corp corporate structure. You can get away by not having the payroll as long as the company has no transaction or not making enough profit on the books.
Okay.
Can you define not enough profit?
Let's say, absolutely, sir. Let's say the salary is going to be $100, but my profit is $2. I want to hire somebody, but I can't afford to hire somebody.
Okay.
Okay. Would software, Mandeep is asking, would software as a service attract sales tax?
SaaS is not sales tax related product, but we can. There are few states, as I mentioned earlier, that have the sales tax on service, depending on which state you are selling from or which is your home state for the business and where you are selling. We can help you understand if there is going to be a sales tax on the SaaS service.
Yeah. Off the cuff, do you remember New Jersey? Would it attract SaaS, tax on SaaS?
I have to look into it. I have to research. I just, there are
Okay,
50
no problem.
states.
Fine.
Please send an email to Manvi and we'll be happy to look into it for you.
Yes. All right. Next question. Sri Harsha is asking, if Indian company not having presence in US appoint US citizen as employee, what are the implications?
Say it one more time. I missed the question, please.
Well, if Indian company not having presence in US appoint US citizen as employee, what are the implications?
No implications. It's a great thing. It's a good thing. You are adding value to the economy. It's seen very, very positive that a foreign company is giving employment to the local US residents. So if you go for immigration, if you go for any state or federal benefit, it's seen positively. It does have some compliance around it. Before paying the employee, you have to withhold certain state and federal taxes that you have to pay to the state and federal government on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, depending on the payroll, how much is the salary, how much is the payroll.
Headphone down now?
But it's considered as a positive thing.
Okay. Wonderful. Dhaval Patel is asking, if the company is registered in Florida and provides services in Florida only, what kind of sales tax it attracts and how much percentage?
We can help you look at it. Please provide the addresses where the company is located and where you are selling. Typically, the services do not attract the sales tax, but please help us understand what service you are providing, and we'll be happy to research it for you. Sales tax question, I typically hesitate, even though in many cases I would know the answer based on my prior experience. But please understand there are 50 states. Each state will have 30 different type of taxes. So there is a million possibility depending on where you are selling to, what you are to where you are selling to and what you are selling, that can have a different sales tax implication for you.
Okay. Dr. Rajesh Palani is asking, can a founder have multiple companies registered in US for multiple businesses?
Absolutely. There is no limitation on how many companies you can have. I have clients who have more than 50 companies under their name, under one social security number. So, I mean, I'm just giving you an example. There is no such limitation that you cannot have more than one company.
Okay. Anand Vadadia is asking, what is the provision or special benefits for IT startup company planning for US office?
We can help you start the business. A lot of IT companies in India have the US office. In many cases, only the sales office, only the face office. But I'm not sure I understand what do you mean by what's the provision. There are special benefits depending on if it's a minority-owned, women-owned company. But it's like any other business. We will be happy to start your business and then see what benefits are applicable in your situation, and then we can work it out for you.
Okay, so this is the last question, and actually, Ajay, but this is a very good question for everyone. In fact, let me put it a different spin to it. You see, there are many incubators, just like India has many incubators, right? So, well, we don't have an incubator. We have a business center, US-India Collaborative Corridor, that we run together from East Brunswick. But what happens is there are state-run incubators also. For example, RI Hub by Rhode Island, they did a collaboration with NASCOM, and I was a part of that business dealing. So many states run that depending on what kind of sector these hubs, these incubators or accelerators support. For example, RI Hub went big time for Indian companies to invite them, giving them 6 months of free space, advisory, meeting with the clients and all those things. But then they had caveats like you should be making money, you have revenue, you are cash flow positive, or you are funded. So things like that. So, there is no one size answer to that. But we can certainly talk, and through Gurumiji's team, you can get in touch, and I can add more value to that. All right. So in the paucity of time, thank you, Ajay. So this session is ended. Let's go to the next one. Wonderful job. Thank you very much. I know there are a million more questions I can ask, but I know we cannot address all of them here. So let's go to the next one. Now next.
Naveen, kindly allow me to convey our sincere thanks to Ajay.
Sure.
And I think very beautifully covered and very well explained, everyone. Thanks, Ajay. Thanks again.
Of course, my pleasure, sir.
Right. All right. Okay. So now let's get to the next. This is our office, actually. This is our team. Ajay ji is on the rightmost corner, and all of the team members right here.
So that's not Ajay ji. This is Ajay ji.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, just to put faces on the people who work with us, right? All right. Okay. So now I'm inviting Geeta Rajavarupu and an L1A expert. So Geeta, the presentation is ready with me. So as you guide, I will move along.
So first of all, thank you, Naveen ji, for the introduction. A very warm welcome to all. I know it's a little bit late in India, but thank you everyone for joining. Special thanks to Consul General Randir ji for addressing at the start of the meeting, and his inputs towards expansions in the US is very, very valuable. So I wouldn't take too much of time, but I would just start the presentation keeping the time in mind for everybody. I'm an immigration expert dealing with multiple types of visas across. It includes the family-based, the employment-based, the business immigration. And I've been in this field as an HR and as an immigration professional for the past 15 years and have been dealing with a variety kind of visas. one of which we are going to focus as a primary subject today and discuss about this. Given that most of these startup businesses would want to come to the United States and are looking for having a proper immigration visa in place to come to the United States and start. So to begin with, I'm going to introduce what is an L1A visa. L1A visa is a temporary non-immigrant visa, which is of a dual intent. That means a person can apply for the L1A visa. I'll give you the background of who can apply, how they can apply, but this type of visa allows you to come to the United States, and then at a later point, when everything is in compliance, you're able to get a fast track to the green card. So this kind of visa is specially allows the US employers or an employer in India who has a company in the US set up to transfer their executives who are in a managerial capacity or in an executive capacity, or somebody who is in a decent position who is managing the team based on the hierarchy levels, to transfer their employees or the person who owns that company to come to the United States to expand their business in the US, or depending on their roles and responsibilities, they can start the business in the US. So there are two varieties of visas which we are going to quickly talk about today. This L1A visa allows the foreign company that does not have a US office to send an executive or a manager to the United States with the purpose of establishing one. So the first visa variety, what I'm going to say, is the L1A visa. For primarily, an office is already existing. It can be a parent or a subsidiary or an affiliate of the foreign company. For example, India, a company is in India and has been established in India, and it has a subsidiary or an affiliate or a parent company. It can be vice versa. That means a company can be in the foreign national company, and it can be in India, in Europe, in UK. This company must own the subsidiary or the affiliate, or can be a parent company of the company that is in the United States that has been existing. So there are a couple of ways that the L1 visa needs, the USCIS needs, for the relationship, which is called a qualifying relationship for the L1A visa to be determined. And then that is how we can evaluate and say, hey, this company is okay to send its employees to the United States. So when I say allows a foreign company that does not have a US office, that is a different category, which is L1A new office, which we will talk in the next slide. So initially, Naveenji, sorry to break. So can you just move on to the next slide as well, so I can cover here. So about the L1A visa, typically the first and foremost requirement is having a US office set up in the United States. It can be the foreign company can be in India, can be in Europe, can be in UK, and across the globe. But when we need to have an L1A visa initiated, the first and foremost step is to ensure you have an office set up in the US. It has been existing in the business. It has been doing business. That when I say it has been doing business, you need to ensure you have been properly filing your taxes to the government of the United States. And then you are having an office space which you could show as a requirement that you're already existing in the business. So there is no maximum investment required for this kind of a setup. Primarily, we will show the L1A qualification is being met when you have an office set up in the US. So this will give an ability to travel for the visa holder, whomever the company is sponsoring. Say, for example, a company who has the CEO or a CEO or any managerial capacity holder to travel to the United States has an office existing in the US. So he or she can travel to the US to expand their business. This is one kind of an L1A visa. The other is an L1A new office visa, which Ajay has spoken in terms of opening a new entity. So both of them, I'm trying to make sure I'm explaining it correctly so there are no conflicts. L1A visa, the first variety is for the business that has already been existing, and the L1A new office visa is for somebody to come and open their business entities in the United States. Both have different types of regulations that we need to follow. The first type is a little easier, given that the business is existing and has been performing. You have your employees over here, or somebody can come and expand. Whereas the L1A new office visa would require you to project your expansion ideas, project your business plans to the USCIS and say, hey, this is what we are going to, this is what we are going to, set up the company in terms, and say our financials are so and so, our business plans are so and so. The hiring processes is like, we are going to hire a certain number of people and contribute to the American economy. So the first and foremost thing, very important for the L1A visa, is the qualifying relationship. So the Indian company and the US company must be able to establish a qualifying relationship. When I say it's a qualifying relationship, is called either a parent company, it can be a subsidiary, it can be an affiliate, just like a parent having 4 children, right? So the parent has equal control on all of the 4 children. Similarly, if a company is in India, the Indian company can be a parent company and the US company a child, which can be a subsidiary, a fully owned subsidiary, or an affiliate, or any other relationship that is qualifying in nature, and both are existing in the businesses. So both the parent company and the US company need not be in the same line of business, but we need to ensure and show both the companies are performing the businesses. The second most important thing for an L1A visa is the person who is being proposed for this kind of a visa must have been working with the foreign or the parent company for at least 12 months, which is an year, in the consecutive last 3 years. So when I say he or she has been working for the past 12 months, that means we need to show as an evidence whether you would have the pay stubs, you would have an employment contracts with the company, and any other documents to prove that he or she who is being proposed for the L1A visa, it has been with the company. So this is another secondary important point for us. Even before we evaluate if he or she is qualifying for the L1A visa, we need to ensure this is being met. The third important point for this L1A visa is you need to have a proper office setup in the US before you come for starting your own roles and responsibilities. So there is no minimum educational requirement for this kind of a visa, for the L1A visa, but we need to ensure your roles and responsibilities, your executive managerial responsibilities are being met per the USCIS guidance and rules and compliance, which we will evaluate at the time when you approach. So the first kind of visa, the L1A visa, will allow you, for a business that has already been existing, will allow you initially to obtain a 3 years of approval with the USCIS to a maximum of 7 years, during which you will be having the eligibility to file a green card under an EB1C category, which is like for the multinational managerial roles. So this kind of visa filing allows you to fast track your GC process and then file the GC. I would say typically within the 7-year limit, you would get your green card. So USCIS is currently working on the timelines very well, and we have seen it has been very fruitful, and the approval rate is also high, given we meet all the compliance requirements by the USCIS. So the L1A visa, again, like there is no annual limit for this kind, like just we have the H1B visas, which have an annual cap of 85,000 and the master's cap of 20,000. So for the L1A visa, there is no cap that is counted by the USCIS. We can do n number of L1A visas. Again, compliance is priority. So the L1A visa, there is another very important benefit. I'm sure each of you would love to hear that, because when you travel, you would say, hey, I want to come along with my family. Yes, this visa would allow you to bring in your dependents at the time of applying the visa, travel with your dependents, and your spouses would have the eligibility to obtain a work authorization in the United States. Meaning, now in the past 9 months, USCIS has amended the rules saying the L1 visa holders are having the eligibility for their spouses to provide a work authorization, wherein the spouses can come along and then work in the United States. The new office L1A is different from what I have spoken right now. The new office L1A requires somebody to project their business plans, project their financials, project their hiring processes, project their expansion methods, project their the ideas of how the business is going to grow in the next 1 year's time, because the new office L1A visa would allow you to get an approval only for 1 year. So at the end of filing extension, when at the end of the 1 year, when we are at a stage where we need to file the extension, USCIS would want you to evaluate and show what are the requirements that we have submitted in the previous petition and what have been met. So there is high level of scrutiny when coming to this L1A new office visa. If we do not meet the requirements, or we do not meet the commitment that we have showed in the petition, there are high chances USCIS would issue an RFE, which is called a request for you show proper projections when you are filing an L1A new office visa.
Geeta, we lost you for a couple of seconds. You used the term RFE, very important for everyone to know. Can you just repeat that sentence one more time?
Sorry about that. Yeah, there's that. So RFE is request for further evidence, meaning if when we submit a petition and say for the new L1A office visa, we have shown to the USCIS we are going to hire 3 people. We are going to say, I'm going to fetch a $1 million revenue. I'm going to expand my business, and these commitments have not been met at the time of filing the extension. USCIS is most likely to issue an RFE, which is request for further evidence, asking why we haven't been meeting those requirements or the commitments that we have previously filed in the petition during the extension. Always, there is a need that we always can tell the USCIS, these are the requirements we have submitted, but this is what we have met. So truthful answers, everything in compliance with what we have submitted, high chances of getting approved. And we also need to ensure we are doing proper projections when we file the L1A new office visa. So Naveenji, can we move to the next slide, please?
Yes.
So I briefly touched the qualifying relationship about the parent company, subsidiary, affiliate, or a branch. And at the time of opening the company, if you are coming to the United States to open the company, you can reach out to Naveenji and Ajay. They are going to help you in forming your company in a proper structure, which is required by the USCIS. So there are certain ways, how the structure should be while forming the company. And this is very important to show to the USCIS the qualifying relationship. If we are not able to prove evidence for the company's qualifying relationship between the foreign company and the United States company, then again, there are high chances that USCIS will issue an RFE. The second important point, which we again briefly touch base, is doing business. You must be able to show the company in the United States, which is already existing or which is going to start. We need to show that the company is existing in business. You can show your tax returns, you can show consolidated financial tax documents, you can show any other legal documents and submit them in the petition saying, hey, this company has been in business and we do qualify for the L1. 1 year employment abroad, which I have spoken about, is another qualifying aspect for the L1A visa. We must be able to show somebody who has been with the company abroad. Here, I would say the Indian or the company which is in UK or Europe, wherever. The beneficiary who is being proposed for the L1A visa must have been working with the foreign company for at least 1 continuous year within the past 3 years in an executive capacity. Now, I would take a halt and say, when I say executive managerial capacity, we need all the evidences for the petition when we are filing with the USCIS to show and meet what kind of an executive role the person was in. You know, any documentary evidences, any of your internal communications with your employees, any of your pay stubs, your letters, employment contracts, anything with the company is is going to make a big value add for the petition. Coming to work in an executive or managerial capacity for a branch of the same employer or one of its qualifying organizations, again, is something which I have mentioned. You can, the parent company can be in India, you can work for any of its branches as long as we are able to submit the petition in compliance with the USCIS rules, and we need to show proper documentary evidences for each of the points which I have mentioned. Next slide. So opening an L1A visa new office. 1 year to start up the business in the US. Extension is filed before 1 year of expiration, which I spoke about. There's a 12-month period that we will have, the company would have for its employee who has been in the US to start rigorously working on the commitments or based on the petition that has been submitted to the USCIS and the projections. So first and foremost, for a new office L1A visa is to obtain a new office space or a building where you can show that you have the capacity to make your employees sit, or whoever is the person is going to come and sit in the work. L1A visa definitely do not encourage these remote kind of a working environment, just like for the H1. We definitely need an office space. We need to show to the USCIS you have the capacity and a building space wherein you're going to come and sit and operate. The company must be able to demonstrate that it will be able to support the managerial or an executive position after 1 year, which is what I was saying. In your projections, you're going to say, after the completion of the initial 1 year or the 12 months in the extension, I'm going to say, these are the projections that we have met, and these are the next projections that we are going to implement and expand the business. Again, a business plan plays an important role. We have a couple of our partners who could help us with making the business plan. A business plan is very, very important for the L1A new office visa, which would have your financial projections, again, your hiring projections, your growth projections. The Indian or the foreign parent company or the affiliate relationship, qualifying relationship company must show both the US and the foreign entities are still qualifying organizations and both are still doing the businesses. It has to be existing. USCIS has indicated and would review all the documents that we submit and any legal evidences that we could show in the petition saying the businesses are existing and are performing businesses is okay to be submitted to the USCIS. The US company can support executive managerial or is relieved from the day-to-day operations. Like this is again an executive managerial role wherein you have been handling a team or a set of people in the foreign company, and you will be performing a similar kind of an executive role in the United States as well. So it's very important you have been in an executive managerial capacity. It can be a functional or an executive, but your position as a beneficiary for the US L1A visa proposed role must be an executive role. So with this, keeping the time in mind, Naveenji, I just wanted to keep everything, but I'm happy to answer any questions. We noted a couple of them over here, so these are the kind of questions most of the times we are asked. So I thought I'll put them over here. What counts as a qualifying relationship between companies? As we went through, it should be either a parent. A relationship is a parent relationship, a subsidiary, or an affiliate. The percentages of the companies, we will discuss it at the time of evaluating what kind of a business you are in, where your businesses are set up, how much of ownership is with the companies. Ajay and Naveenji can take it at a later point. But yes, to answer that question, qualifying relationship between the companies must be either a parent or a subsidiary or a branch or an affiliate. Must the US company be in the same line of business as the Indian company? No. As long as the business is existing, it need not be in the same line of business. But however, we have to show proper evidences what kind of businesses both these companies are into and how their qualifying relationship is existing. What is the minimum amount of investment capitalization required? There is no minimum amount that I would say, but again, we would evaluate what kind of businesses you are into, and then based on that, we can suggest what kind of capital you should be looking into. But to answer this question, there is no minimum amount of investment. Again, when coming to opening a bank account, which Ajay has touched base, and transferring of funds and how you should be managing, Ajay and Naveen are the experts. They will guide you on how to properly do that. If I want to open a new office in the US, how do I show the US company is doing business? So you need to have a proper business plan for this, proper projections of how and what are you going to do over here, and we will properly showcase this in the business plan, evaluate what you want to do and how you want to open a new office in the US. So there is a little bit of evaluation that we want to do based on what kind of a business you are into. And to show how the US company is doing business, tax documents, financial documents, any of your qualifying relationship between the parent company and the subsidiaries is always good to be submitted included in the petition. What documents must be submitted to prove that the employee worked for the company abroad? You can use your pay stubs, that your tax filings in the foreign company. You can show your employment contracts, any other, from the HR perspective, you would have multiple documents that you could show, including your performance appraisals or any other tax related documents that the company can provide on your behalf. And those documents, you need to ensure they are for the past 12 months. How do I prove I worked in an executive or a managerial role? For this particular point, I would focus on the hierarchy levels, the organizational charts that you would have, the team. There is a vast documentation that we will need, including your team. How many people do you have in your organization, how many do report to you, their resumes, their educational documents, and everything, any evidence that you show that are in an executive capacity and you direct the team. So when I say directions to the team, you're handling your team, you're monitoring your team, there might be multiple evidences, internal, say, email evidences. You're controlling your team, saying, hey, you're approving their leave requests, multiple ways that we could show the evidences. Can I qualify for an L1 if I'm the owner of a company abroad? Yes. This question is, you are qualified. Again, we will need to evaluate what kind of ownership you have with the company. Are you owning 100%? Are you owning certain amount of percentage, or stockholder, or those kind? We can only evaluate and tell you based on individual cases. how long can an L1A visa be granted for? So the first type of L1A visa for a company that has already been existing in the business can have an approval for 3 years, given the petition has all the proper paperwork that the USCIS needs. But for the L1A new office visa, we only get for the initial 1 year period. And during this 1 year period, you will want to submit and be ready with all the projections you have made to request another 3 year of extension. Can I bring my family and can they work in the US? We already answered this question, which is like the dependents are allowed, the spouse is allowed to work in the United States, and they get an employment authorization to perform any kind of business, or they can work in the United States. Does an L1A visa lead to a green card? Yes, that is the quickest and the most easiest way to get a green card under an EB1C category, which currently is looking at a timeline of 2 years or 3 years based on how the extensions are filed. But for this question, yes, L1A leads to the green card very easily.
Okay, wonderful. That's the end of the presentation by Geeta. So Geeta, let's take some questions now. First of all, excellent job. I mean, you have covered every single detail of it that is necessary for everyone to get aware of, to get started. So now the first question is coming from Prashant. Prashant is asking, what time does it take for getting L1 visa and cost?
So the USCIS legal fees is based, there is a $460 base fee, which is called an I-29 filing fee, which you will find it on the USCIS website as well. And there is another $500 fee, which is called an anti-fraud fee for the company. These both 460 plus 500. These both are the legal fees that you would want to submit in the petition. Coming to the charges for entry India, you can reach out to Naveen ji at a later point that we could talk. For the timeline, for the L1A timeline to process a visa depends on how much of the documents and paperwork that you are ready with. We are going to work hand in hand and tell you this is what is needed, and then we work together to build. So I would say at least the maximum will be at least 2 or 3 months to build the petition.
Right. Please remember, Prashant, that this visa requires a lot of documentation. There are going to be few hundred pages that is going to go to the department. So so that's what it is. So case by case basis, the cost can differ, but we can talk about it offline. Next question is by Amit Srivastava. So even before opening an office, one can get L1A?
No. So you need to open an office over here. If you already don't have a company over here, you have to do the L1A new office visa process that I explained. So you cannot, so even if you don't have a company, you have to start your paperwork first to do that and then apply for the L1, because that is very critical. If you are not in a position to do the projections or whatever I have explained earlier, before you initiate, then there is high level of scrutiny that we will receive from the USCIS.
Right. Tushar is asking, is founder of a company eligible for L1A?
Yes. But again, I would put a disclaimer. I need to evaluate when you are saying a founder, what is your percentage of ownership? What is that you're going to do in the US? There is a good process of evaluation that we would want to do. But if to your question, a founder of a company, yes, but on proper evaluation of what you do in terms of business.
Okay, Niloy is asking, what is the difference between a subsidiary and an affiliate?
Subsidiary can be, for example, an Indian company has subsidiaries in UK, in US, in Australia, right? Subsidiary is like another child, or I would say 100% owned child, right? It's you have the UK company and the US company are children of the company in India, and these are called the subsidiaries. So that the ownership again might vary here and there, but subsidiaries. An affiliate is an Indian company has a different line of business in another different, say UK and US, and the formation, the structure, the formation of the companies is different. The affiliate relationship is a little different, whereas I would term subsidiary as a child. Affiliates are, you can be in different line of business, but again, I would say something like an Entry India has an Entry India US company, which is an affiliate, and we could properly showcase that during the formation of the company. I hope I was able to answer. But subsidiary is like a child, and affiliate would be like a cousin, or you know, those kind of terms. Yeah.
Correct, correct. Okay, Dr. Rajesh Palani is asking, is there any minimum investment required for L1A or L1A new office visa?
For the L1A, initially, since you have already been doing business, there would be certain amount of tax returns you would be filing. So there's no minimum amount, I would say. But when you're doing a new office, you definitely need to show your projections that this is what we are going to meet. So there is no minimum amount that I would say that, you know, you have to have. But at the time of filing the petition, you have to show that in the business plan that these are the projections that we are going to have in terms of investments.
Yes, and so, you know, for these projections, to structure that business case, you will hire a company who will create your business plan, and that is an added cost to it. Okay, so that becomes a part of your investment, whatever you're investing. Okay, Prashant is asking, can founder director apply for L1A new office? Do we need a physical office? Can virtual office do, or shared office space?
So virtual offices, definitely no. L1A requires you to have an office setup. Again, shared office space is something, you know, is not encouraged, because you need to properly show where your team is going to work. You need to have a proper office setup for your company. So to your question, virtual offices are not allowed. Proper office space, to that extent, I would say in my experience, USCIS, I have seen USCIS also requesting evidences to show the square foot of the office, wherein we can say, you know, how come you're saying your projections for hiring are 6 people and you make them sit in a small office space. So you want to keep everything in line, properly compliant. If you're saying I'm going to hire only 2 people, it depends on the kind of office space you're going to show that, hey, you know, the 2 people can sit in this office. So I hope I was able to answer. There was another question that you had asked.
Yes, so there is I think, you know, the best way to show is through your lease for that office, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay, next question, Dr. Rajesh Palani. What is the minimum number of years of operation in US to apply for L1A visa? Is there any defined business performance to be eligible to apply for this?
So minimum amount of time is at least a year, because that is the time where you would have filed your tax returns. USCIS will go back and see, you know, hey, you have been existing in business, you have your FEI number, you have your bank account number, you have been performing businesses and filing tax returns. That is the minimum requirement that we would show. That is for an existing L1. The new office is separate, like we discussed.
Okay. Niloy is asking, does Regis WeWork qualify as office space?
I would say no. I would say no, because Regis is more like a virtual office, because you can just come and go and sit anywhere you want. That's not specific to your businesses. So I would say no.
Yes, it's basically no, because a co-working space won't be allowed. But if you can lease out some rooms or together or whatever, but those are you have signed a lease with them, and that's a specific space that is dedicated to you and your team. Okay. Okay. So Krish Dayala is asking, how is this different for MSME and large Indian companies like TCS?
I'm sorry.
So you know, when large companies, TCS, when they bring the question, exactly the phrase is, how is this different for MSME, that is micro, small, medium enterprises in India, Geeta, and large Indian companies like TCS?
So TCS, companies like TCS, you know, they have their own systems, because they have been performing, they have been existing in business for many years now, and they would have a blanket petition. So the blanket L petition is very different from what we are talking right now, and I would not get that into picture here, because that is for larger companies, wherein USCIS allows a company to send n number of L1A visa holders, or in their executive capacities. Companies like TCS would have a blanket approval, under which they could do how many ever L1A petitions they want to file. But for the smaller ones, it's considered to be an individual filing, which typically the companies are not qualified for a blanket. The blanket petition needs you to have certain number of years of existing in the business. You need to have certain amount of revenues. You need to have certain amount of people that you're having in the employee count, etc. There are like multiple varieties for the blanket. I would not definitely not get that into picture for small businesses. So
Okay, Dr. Yes, so
yeah.
Dr. Rajesh Plan is asking, I'm just running through because of the paucity of time, Geeta. Is
Yeah.
there any minimum number of employees needed for these visa, both in India and the US company?
Yes, so typically there is no minimum number, but we do definitely want to show a proper organization chart saying at least, I have. So if I say I'm managing a team, I wouldn't say, okay, it's just like one or two people, right? You just need to have a proper team, at least 5 or 6 of them. Same goes with the US office. If you have a proper team over here, which is allowing you to file under the normal L1 visa that we initially spoke, versus L1A new office visa, you don't have anybody. You want to show how many people you're going to come and manage. You're going to hire them in the business. So yes, a minimum, I would say at least 5 or 6 people in your team to show that you properly have, an organization to manage.
Okay. Saeed is asking, what are the key criteria that USCIS considers when evaluating an L1A application? I think, that was the whole presentation, Geeta. But how will you summarize it? On the screen, Sayed, you can see, these are the general qualifications that USCIS will see.
That's right. So first of all, the qualifying relationship of the company is very important. To be very precise, you have to be in the business, which the slide has it. The 1 year of employment for the executive role who is being proposed for the L1A visa, and coming to the United States as an executive manager, versus you would have already been in the foreign company in the similar role, in an executive role. So these are the kind of qualifications you need to keep in mind even before considering an L1A visa to evaluate further if you want to pursue this or no.
Okay, Amit Srivastava is asking, if one of my parents is also a director in the company, can both of us get L1A?
We need to evaluate. So if the director is in India and you already have somebody in the US, so we need to evaluate the case very properly, and I wouldn't comment. You can reach out to Naveen and then we can do the further evaluation.
Wonderful. So you're welcome, Prashantji. Next question is by Vishaka. Can we have a L1A despite having tourist visa?
Yes.
All right. Okay, Nilesh is asking, we already have a company from 2018 in US. Employees in India are on consultant roles and not employee.
So consultants are pretty much, if I'm understanding it correctly, are more like a contractors. And if they have not been on your payroll in the Indian company, then I would, I don't think that is a qualifying relationship. If it is a contractor, if you are on a full-time, if you have your employees full-time, having the Form 16s, their pay stubs and everything, that is one qualifying relationship which we explained, but contractor roles are not eligible.
Okay. So Vishaka, your question has been addressed already. Navneet Kaushal is asking, so let's say I'm a founder and only worked in India, but have a US registered company, then do I need to work in some other foreign country or before applying?
So if you're in India and then you want to come to the United States to work, and you have been, being met with the qualifying relationship that we have spoken about, your companies are having the qualifying relationship, then we can certainly evaluate how if you meet the L1A visa requirement or no. So again, I would evaluate and then comment.
Okay. All right. So everyone, thank you, Geeta. Fantastic. Thank you. For Prashantji, for a share of, for the contacts, it's only through the Gurmeetji's office. And then we can absolutely touch base and get along, assisting you in whatever you require to do. Thank you, Geeta, once again. Thank you, Ajayji. Now let's come back to our next presenter, Mr. Sanjay Prasad. Sanjayji, I am signing off. I'm actually logging out. Stop. Okay. So I have stopped presentation. Okay. So Sanjay ji, it's your turn. You are the man in charge now. So please get started. Sanjay, you are muted, sir. Sanjay ji, you are muted.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Naveen ji, for inviting me. Hello, everybody. I know most of you are in India and want to sell product here. So a couple of things I want to tell you. I have own business experience about 30 years, and I've been working for other companies in the past for another, I would say 10 years more. So when you talk about how do you sell your product or distribution, let's talk about basic components. You need a warehouse space. You need insurance for the warehouse. You need labor to receive, pack, and ship. And then you need UPS, FedEx. You need UPS, FedEx, or any other trucking to leave. So those are the 4 components. So if you want to ask me how much it will cost to ship your product, I cannot give you an answer. Let's give you a simple example. If I ship a letter, FedEx next day letter, standard, it will cost me $30. If I have a projection that I can do this much volume a month or a year, then that same letter pack would cost $15. So it all depends on how your volume is. And then right now, warehousing space is very short in New Jersey or all throughout US. It's a boom. To give you an idea, in last maybe 6 months, the warehouse rental space has jumped up by 30%. And all the big offices, which are regular offices, are being converted into warehouses because the demand is so high. So anyway, what we do, we also sell a lot of electronic products, which is integrated circuits, chips, products that require HVAC, so they don't go bad. So we have that in our facility. We have a 10,000 square facility. So it's all secured. It's all with camera, with insurance, and with your security. So we also have, I would say about our height of the warehouse is about 23 feet. And we have a square feet of at least 500 square feet, which is totally secured with steel in the wall of 20 feet. The reason we did that, we used to buy Intel CPUs. Each CPU would be $700 to $800. A box of, say, 30 pounds was $250,000. And they needed to be in these, climate controlled. So depending on you guys, what you want to ship, how you want to ship, we can have an answer for you individually. For mass, just to know, there are 4 components that I just told you. We can show you a little bit of the warehouse of how it's done. Also, what software you'd like us to use, or we can use our software to ship out. When we ship out by FedEx, UPS, you will get a tracking number and you will get an email that this has been shipped out, and then you can track it when it's going to be there.
Okay, so Sanjay ji, let's start with first of all, let's have a look at the warehouse. If you can just show us, I can see Pachali is right there. Hello,
okay,
sir.
Pachali.
You are muted.
Let me just unmute myself. Okay, so let me just flip the camera. Hello, everyone. Let me just flip my camera and show you a little bit of the office. So we have, so this is our office space, which we could also give out for some of our customers who come in to use our warehouse space. So I'm now entering into the warehouse. This is our secure warehouse, so we've got a keypad, we've got a lock, and we've got a password here.
Gurmeet can what we can do so that we can increase the size of this the layout. I don't know.
So this is our secure warehouse. As Sanjay said, the ceilings go up 23 feet plus. We've got steel in the walls for about 20 feet, and we've got cameras all over.
And this also has the HVAC, so air conditioning to keep the your product.
Yeah. So typically in this warehouse, we'll store, expensive electronic items like, phones and TVs and, laptops and stuff like that. Okay. So this is a secure part of, this is the secure thing of our warehouse. This is the rest of our warehouse.
Okay, so well, thank you very much. Yes, so this warehouse is highly secured because of the value of the products that are there, ranging up to $100,000. And so the question, let's begin with some session, some QA, Sanjay ji and
Yes,
Pachali.
go ahead.
Okay. Now, for example, I am sending, let's say, 20 pallets of my product line, and palletized, or howsoever it is. Let's take some examples, and just to I know that there is never a situation where we can give an exact cost right now because we don't have the product. Now, once these products are deboarded and they are in the facility, so now from the time when you place them on stacks or wherever, and then to the time when an order comes and these orders are fulfilled, now how a customer is billed and how the cost is assessed. I know there are million different scenarios in which, as you said, shipping is one part of it, and of course hosting that product and doing a packaging is done, maybe, or labeling and all that. So how the cost structure is created for the order fulfillment.
Okay, so the first cost structure would be how long is the first is receiving cost when you receive it in. 2, how long it's going to be there. 3, how do we package it? Do we ship it as it is? We slap on the sticker, or do we have to remove the labels and put other labels? Those are the minimum. Then, do we need to use our packaging material? So we need to saran wrap it black or clear, or we need to put it in different boxes. Then the boxes cost are there. Then after that, when we are shipping it out, how are we billing it? UPS, FedEx, all of that, or trucking, that's the cost separate. And are we, scanning the barcodes? That's a different cost, labor cost. So it all depends on how much labor is involved. And now, is your product very expensive? Then we need to get insurance. We have insurance, but you will have to bill you then.
So if they have to get an insurance, so does that mean that they have to have a US setup company so that they can buy product liability insurance?
Yes, we have that. So we can probably give it cheaper than what they can get.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so now shipping, of course, can cost varying depending on the size, dimensions, and the weight of that product, and the size of the product, and what part of US it is going
Absolutely.
to. Okay. And okay, everyone, listeners, any question that you have right now, feel free to ask. You have two experts right in front of you. Okay, the question is there. Let me open up my screen so that I can read it. Okay, Emmanuel David is asking, do we have a plug and play kind of a warehousing facilities for a service? See that state agency sponsored program so that the safe and secure warehousing services are given.
Yes, we could give that, but we need to know what would be how much would be the volume, what would be the turnaround. All of that would be individual. Absolutely. You can have a plug and play.
Beautiful. Okay, Dr. Rajesh Palani is asking, where is this warehouse located? Can the shipping be done all out of US?
This is, yes. We are in New Jersey. We are 20 miles from Newark Airport and 45 miles from JFK Airport. These are the two major airport hubs. And New Jersey port is right another 20 miles from us. So we're on the center of it. And you can ship from here to anywhere in the world, including all of US.
Well, okay, wonderful. Next question is Niloy is asking, how are you different from FBA?
What do you mean by FDA? Food Drug Administration?
No, not FDA. Fulfillment by Amazon.
Okay, we are B2B, so we don't do small orders. We don't do 100 of small orders. We are doing big orders. we will have 5 pallets, 10 pallets. We don't do consumer. We only do business to business.
Yes, Niloyji, FBA is B2C, where an order comes on Amazon or wherever, and in case of fulfillment by Amazon, it comes on Amazon. So it goes maybe container in, one product out. Here, container in, but maybe few pallets going out. So this is how you have to differentiate between the two. Dr. Rajesh Palani is asking, do you support with your import license, or should we have our import license?
We have import license. That's not an issue in case they need to. Each facility we can give you all those facilities but for everything that we use on our own, there'll be a charge.
Okay, my next question is, since there is no one asking, but still let me ask on behalf of everyone. Let's say an order comes in. How is order placed with you, and how a client based out of India will get to know that it has been fulfilled?
Yeah, Pachali, I'll let you answer that.
Okay, so when you say an order comes in, I would assume the client in India wants to ship their product to the US, so which is stored in our warehouse, and from our warehouse it's sub-distributed to maybe some of their other B2B customers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So when they ship, they would have tracking information, either by a freight forwarder, which is technically right, or by a courier company, FedEx or UPS, So as soon as the shipment hits our dock, we will send them an email confirmation informing them that the product has arrived. We will, take an inventory of the product and confirm that all the goods are received in good condition, and then we will store it in the warehouse, and we'll wait for instructions for them to inform us where to ship the product into. Like maybe 25% of the goods got to go to a customer in New Jersey, 25% got to go to a customer in Texas. So as and when we get instructions from the customer, we will send them a packing list, pictures of the shipment, and the tracking information of the shipment that we send to each of their customers, and then follow up with the invoice for the services that we've given them. Does that answer the question?
Yes, exactly. That was my question. It was more about how the communication happens between the two parties, that is you and the client in India who is selling the products or dispatching, who wants to get them dispatched from your warehouse to the clients or the customer's warehouse. Okay.
Typically by email at every step of the way.
Wonderful. And what is the turnaround time, Pachali, for that?
A maximum of a day. Maximum of a day. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the volume.
Depends on
right. But since it is electronic items, and they cost a lot of money, and the prices keep changing, we like to turn them around ASAP.
Wonderful. So everyone, there is one more question. Dr. Rajesh Palani is asking, do you also support B2C? No, this is not for B2C,
no.
Dr. Palani. This is only B2B. B2C, we can talk separate, but this facility, which is high-end, all secured, and with very expensive, of course, high-tech products. So this is only catering to B2B. In B2C market, mostly high-end products do go there sometime, but we can talk about it offline separately, Dr. Palani. Any more questions for the speakers? Participants, I know it is late in India. It is 9:15 p.m. and we are still online, but I think this is the tail end. We are about to just finish it up. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. Other than that, Sanjay ji, if you have anything more to say to it, or else, we will just end it up right here.
No, anything that they need, they can reach out to us for a custom code. We can do that. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you, Pachali.
Thank you, Naveen ji.
Thank
you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, Gurmeet ji.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Naveen, and thanks all the panelists. I think we have a very wonderful session and very insightful. And I'm sure our members might have got all the answers. If still you have any questions, we'll be very happy to connect you offline with Naveen ji and his team again. And please do reach us out and with your questions, or if you need the contact of Naveen ji and his team members, we'll be very happy to share with you. And as we are discussing with Naveen ji of having a warehousing facility for our members, which could be supported by the government of India partially for ESC members, and let's see, we are putting up a project, and recently our proposal and our recommendation requests to the Government of India have been approved, wherein the warehousing projects are in principle have been agreed for the funding for the small and medium businesses, all the small businesses. So we are planning to have one with the support from Naveenji. We are talking to him and working out on a project proposal, and let's see, how things moves. And I'm sure in the coming financial year, we'll be able to have some bulk space in existing warehouse, which can be ultimately used by ESC members for their warehousing needs in the United States. With these words, thank you once again, Naveenji, for your time, efforts, and always support to ESC and its members, on extending to the US market. I appreciate that. And we look forward to the continued support again. And as and when our members need your help to tap the opportunities and their expansion in this important marketplace, we always look forward to you. Thank you so much again. And thanks you all the members for staying late and joining us in a big numbers today. Thank you once again. Thanks. Thank you so much.
I want to, Gurmeet, just in the end, one more thing. Everyone, I was a part of India Soft earlier this year, and I had a booth. And next year, I am taking a bigger booth, and I am bringing a good sized delegation from US. So looking forward to seeing you in January. But well, I'm available anytime you want to talk to me tomorrow. I'm available. But of course, I will be Gurmeet at India Soft event starting 17 January with the delegation, and looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. Thanks, everyone. So with this, we are closing down, and good night, everyone, and good morning to Team US. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.